Hello and welcome to the Merrimack Republican State Representative Candidates Forum called the Slate of Eight, Your Republican Team. My name is Maureen Mooney, and as a former state representative, it gives me great pleasure to moderate this forum so that you can get to meet our Republican state representative candidates. We have on our panel tonight 5 current state representatives, 2 former state representatives, and you'll get the chance to vote for all 8 of them on Election Day, November 4th. They are Phil Straight, Jack Balcom, Dick Berry, Chris Christensen, Dick Hinch, Josh Moore, Janine Nodder, and Tony Pellegrino. Before introductions, I would like to explain how tonight's program will be conducted. Each candidate for state representative will introduce themselves with a brief opening statement. Then there will be 2 rounds of questions for each candidate. Each candidate will be asked a question and have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. After that, there will be closing remarks. Now we'll hear introductions from our candidates in the order in which they appear on the November ballot. Let's start with Phil Straight.
Thank you, Maureen, and thank you for putting this together tonight. My name is Phil Straight, and I would like your vote. I'd like to represent you in New Hampshire for another term. I just want to say that the government of New Hampshire is a pretty big ship, $12 billion ship. Some want it to turn left, some want it to turn right, but most of us think we're headed towards an iceberg and we got to stop. We should reverse the engines right now, let the economy catch up with the spending. Again, I ask for your vote.
Jack Balcom.
Yes, again, thank you, Maureen, for making this a good opportunity for us. Good evening, I'm Jack Balcom. I want to clear up one thing initially. I will be on the ballot as John Balcom. I'll be on the ballot as John Balcom in the 2nd spot. I've lived in Merrimack since 1981 and served the Merrimack community for the last 30 years, many different spots, school board, budget committee, town trustee, and of course 2 terms already in the State House, and I'm looking forward to going back there. It's a serious matter that we're facing right now. One of the reasons I'm running is to go back up there and provide some experience in leadership. I hope that you appreciate what we bring to the table and that you'll send us back up there to Concord on the 4th of November. Thanks.
Dick Berry.
Hey, thanks, Maureen. I appreciate it. Like Jack, I'm a relative newcomer. My wife and I moved here about 1984. We've got 4 daughters. Some of you out there in the land may know me as from the zoning board for 17 years, planning board for 6 years, various committees in town. A couple of committees I'm on up in Concord, and I want to go back up and make sure we get, as Phil said, get our economic house back in order. But thank you for moderating, and thank you folks for turning in.
Chris Christensen.
Thank you, Maureen. I am Chris Christensen. After my term 5 years in the U.S. Navy, my wife, my family, and I moved to Merrimack. We've been here ever since. And soon after we moved here, we got involved in community affairs. I eventually became a selectman and was chairman of the Board of Selectmen for 2 terms. In 2000, I sort of started a second career, and I was elected to the State House of Representatives, and I appreciate that opportunity to serve the town as well. I have a pro-business voting record. You can look it up online, and I want to use that thought process to help with legislation that will grow the economy. I want to also remind you all that I will be protecting your rights as an individual. Individual rights are very important. I will not vote for an income tax or a sales tax. Thank you very much.
Dick Hinch.
Thank you, Maureen. Good evening. My name is Dick Hinch. I'm running for my 4th term as a state representative. Prior to that, I was a member of the Board of Selectmen as chairman for 3 years, the Merrimack Budget Committee, the Merrimack Public Library Building Committee as chairman, Zoning Board of Adjustment, member of the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, American Legion Post. I am currently a principal broker and owner of Hinge Crowley Realty Associates out of Merrimack. And prior to that, my experience is in excess of 25 years in executive management of the lumber building materials industry. I ask for your vote and your support, and thank you all for tuning in.
Josh Moore.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for this chance. My name is Josh Moore. I've lived here in New Hampshire for 10 years now. I'm a recent graduate of Merrimack High back in 2008, and looking into the issues that are going on in New Hampshire, I have seen a lot of educational problems, and I've also seen a lot of other problems, fiscal all the way down. And looking through all that, I'm excited to represent Merrimack if given the chance, and looking forward to representing it with the 7 other folks sitting to my left and to my right. And I'm excited for that chance because we have to take our government back. We have to represent the people, lower taxes, limited government, getting it out of the backs of people's pockets, and defending you, Merrimack, as citizens, and New Hampshire as a whole, and I am looking forward to it, willing to take a stand for what's right. Thank you.
Janine Nodder.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm Janine Nodder. I'm seeking my 3rd term. I first became involved in politics in the late 80s when I learned that we left live men behind in Southeast Asia after the Vietnam War. I was a POW activist and wrote several freelance articles about the plight of the prisoners of war and missing in action. And then as my family size grew, I had less and less time for the outside world, and my home was lively enough. I didn't have time for any of that, but as my children got older, my need to join a gym became more imminent, so I started taking group fitness classes, and then I taught group fitness for 10 years. Now, during that time, I became reacquainted with some of the people I knew when I was a POW activist, and they encouraged me to start Chatting with Janine on Merrimack TV. That's been running since 2006. In 2008, I graduated from the Vesteroy Excellence in Public Service series. The classes, the political training was taught mostly by Donna Sitek, the first female Speaker of the House for New Hampshire. In 2009, I was the president of the Nashua Area Federated Republican Women, vice president before that. I was director for the Gold Star Mothers Memorial Association. My husband and I have been married 29 years, and my time is up, so I'm turning it over to Tony.
Tony Pellegrino.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm glad to be here. I'm looking for your vote November 4th to get reelected and go up to Concord. I am not finished up there. My background is quite extensive, so I'm not going to go through a lot of it, but I was, at one time, I was a police officer in the town of Merrimack. I was on auxiliary police force. I was a sergeant. I was a selectman for 2 terms. I've been a water commissioner for 12 years. I've been on the ethics committee, and I was past president of the MRA, and I was a coach. And a long, long time ago, and I'm talking way, way back, I was the civil defense director. I'm very conservative, as everybody knows. I've been living in Merrimack over 30 years, and I would appreciate your vote on November 4th. Remember, every vote counts. Come down and vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the introductions. Now we'll start with our first round of questions for each of the state representative candidates. Starting with Phil Straight. Phil Straight, what is the one thing you would change about our legislative process?
I think the one thing I would change is the size and scope of the process. By scope, we typically deal with over 700 bills. The way the Constitution is set up, everybody gets to submit a bill. The problem becomes, which is a very good thing, by the way, but the problem becomes then when a lot of frivolous bills get submitted. And I think we spend a lot of time on those bills that could be better spent on bills more important.
Thank you. Jack Balcom. You have over 30 years of elected service to the people of Merrimack, currently focusing on your position as town trustee. After a 10-year break from Concord, as 2 terms as state representative, why are you running to go back?
Maureen, thank you for that question. I've been watching closely what's been going on in Concord, and I can't believe how poor the quality of leadership from the governor's office and the Democratic-led House has driven the position of New Hampshire as #1 in New England in the Northeast to last place. We have a governor that would have to rise up to obtain mediocrity. She and her immediate preceding governors, Lynch and Shaheen, have taken us from 14th nationwide in economic growth down to 35th. And now she says onward in the same direction. I guess we could go down to 50th, and that troubles me. The governor and her standard bearers in the House and the Senate are causing young people, small and large businesses alike, to flee New Hampshire. I know a business person that I talked to recently that came over here from South Africa. She set up a small business, developed over the last 20 years, 7 employees. And now with all the financial and administrative burden that's been put upon her by these past times that the Democrats have led the House, has caused her to say, I'm packing up and fleeing, of all places, to Canada. Apparently she's heard about the current White House occupant also. What we need to do, we need to go up there and we need to be unified. We need to pick a governor that can turn this downward spiral that we're in around. And we need to send up representatives like the 8 of us here that can go up and support him and to go ahead and lower the tax burden on these businesses and lower the administrative burden on these businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Barry, you are on the powerful Finance Committee, which meets usually 5 days per week during the session. That must keep you pretty busy. Please tell us something about the budget process and any pertinent information you'd care to share.
Thanks, Maureen, and thanks for lobbying on my behalf to get me on the committee. Of course, I'm not sure if that was good or bad at this stage. Couple of things about the process. It's pretty simple. I'm going to try to do this without getting too bogged down into numbers and putting people asleep out there. It's fairly simple. We get an estimate from Ways and Means of how much revenue is coming in, and then what we do is we allocate the budget based on the commissioners and what they think they need to spend, and then when we get to a certain point, we have to stop. The couple of things about the budget that's interesting. I have a copy of the budget from 1918. This is the Merrimack, the state budget, about $4.5 million a year. And one of the things you can count on is that the budget will grow every year, and this is one iteration of the current budget. I mean, what do you do? I've read this and several others a couple of times. Those who say they haven't read the bill yet are funny. And we're at about $10.5 billion, which was cut significantly back two sessions ago. And this past year, the Senate helped us keep it down. Compared to the federal budget, I don't have much information on the federal budget because there is one. There is not one anymore. They don't have one, haven't done it. But if you look at the federal spending, it's about $2.5 trillion, according to Time Magazine, was revenues, total revenues from all sources, and about $3.8 trillion in spending, which says if you're a fairly well-off person making $100,000 a year, and you don't, like the government did, the federal did, you'd be spending $150,000 a year. Yeah, you can't last much on that one. We're going to get it back under control. We're going to reduce spending. We're going to cut where we can and work to to fill the needs, and we may not fill all the wants. That's about it. But thanks again for asking the question.
Thank you. Chris Christensen, you're known in Merrimack as someone who can bring people together to get things done. Can you give us examples of how you've done this in Concord?
Thanks for the question, Maureen. Yeah, I got a couple of examples. They go back a ways, but they're very fresh in my mind. One of them, if you remember, back in 2004, Merrimack enacted public kindergarten. And we were building a new school at the time, and we were relying on state funding for kindergarten to make the whole operation work. The funding ended. It was a sunset in the law, and there just was no more money. So I got a bill filed a bill to bring back that funding for Merrimack. Now, I knew that just one town, we've seen that with the tolls, when you get something for only one town, nobody will vote for it. So I filed the bill, and then I went looking for co-sponsors, and I found some in other towns, working with the Department of Education, and then working with these other towns to co-sponsor the legislation. The bill died in committee. However, that's typical for that type of thing, and it went on. We added it back into the budget in the Finance Committee. Thank you, Dick. And got the funding. We had to go through the process one more time, so really in 2 years we repeated the process, but this time we were ready for everybody. We had our team in place. Total was close to $1 million that we got from state education funding that we would not otherwise have gotten, and it would have gone on to the Merrimack school district tax rate. One other instance, to a certain extent, is this room you're sitting in. This used to be the old courtroom. We worked with the police department at the request of Judge Michael and pointed out to the selectmen what the deficiencies were. We worked with the governor, the budget office, the judiciary, administrative services, and eventually we were able to get a new courthouse built, which opened in June of 2010. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Hinch, the next state budget faces a shortfall of as much as $200 million for each of the 2 years, and it could be worse. If that forecast holds, the state will have to raise more revenue or cut spending. Would you support an income tax, a sales tax, expanded gambling, or cut spending?
Thank you, Maureen, and that is a great question. First and foremost, I will absolutely not, under any circumstances, support an increase in the sales tax or create an income tax. I will not support any broad-based tax whatsoever. I will support, as I have in the past, an expanded gambling bill, which I'll explain more about in a moment. And I think that what we need to do, this first year of the biennium, called 2015, will be the budget year. And already the department heads within the state agencies have presented their budget to the governor, which represents $1.9 billion, with a B, dollars of an increase, which is 18% more than the current budget, as Dick said, of $10.5 billion with a B. So first and foremost, we have to navigate our way through the budget request of the state agency heads and find out what is absolutely critical, essential, and then weed out all of the wants that are there. Going to the expanded gambling piece that you had mentioned in the question, I have been an avid supporter of an appropriate gambling bill. The work that was done by the Governor's Commission, and more importantly, the work that was done in the last 2 years, brought forth a gambling bill, expanded gambling bill that had the right mix to it of restrictions that would make it possible for me to support that. So once again, I will not support any broad-based tax increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Moore, do you support constitutional carry? Why or why not?
Thank you for the question. Simply, I do support constitutional carry. The Second Amendment, and there's a reason why it is the Second Amendment on the Bill of Rights, at the very end offers a word shall not be infringed. Now, in New Hampshire, we have the ability to go to our local police departments and offer $10 and receive a permit to carry concealed within roughly 7 days. Well, that sounds low, and it sounds cheap, and it sounds easy enough to get one. However, it also sets some precedents which I don't like. Looking at it, there's a passage of RSA 1596, which language offers suitable person, and that is not defined in that. So going into this, I do support it. I do not like the fact that we are, I wouldn't say controlled. I don't like the fact that we're tracked. We're already tracked when we have registered weapons, and I do support a background check, but I do not like the fact that we have to go down to the local police department and ask permission when that to me is being infringed upon. So thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. Janine Nodder, the Democrats were in the majority from 2007 to 2010. What happened during that time that made you want to get involved in New Hampshire politics, and how does the Democrat rule compare to the time when Republicans had the majority?
Thank you for the question, Maureen. Yes, now the Republicans had the majority for several decades. When we lost the majority in 2007, it was largely due in part, I believe, to the hostility against our President George W. Bush and the war on terror. I remember talking to people at that time, and they were so angry with the whole war and the president that even though the federal government is not the state government, they voted all the state Republicans out. Well, not all of them, but the majority of them. So under the Democrats, who like to be called progressives, one of the first bills they passed was the repeal of parental notification, and that's what got my attention. Now, when the Republicans regained the majority in 2011 to 2012, we were able to restore those parental rights, and we restored the rainy day fund that the Democrats had spent. They depleted it with out of control taxing and spending from 2007 to 2010. In fact, they raised 84 taxes and fees during that time, spending nearly $2 billion. Then they borrowed money and used one-time federal stimulus money to balance their budget, paying off a credit card with a credit card. When the Republicans regained the majority, we reduced state spending by a historic 11% to return our state to living within its means. We voted for 43 bills that reduced regulations to create more jobs and less paperwork. We voted to eliminate the auto registration surcharge, saving taxpayers $90 million. We increased state government transparency by voting to put the state's checkbook online, allowing citizens to see every check cut by the state. And we restored the rainy day fund. However, we again lost the majority in 2012, and I firmly believe that this was the result of election day tourism, but that's another issue. During these last 2 years, with the progressive Democrats in the majority, they have once again spent the rainy day fund, supported sharp business tax increases this term, despite the fact that high business taxes are undermining the economy and hurting wages. The current majority spent the whole term trying to push forward Obamacare Medicaid expansion into New Hampshire. This is the largest increase of welfare in the state's history, all at the taxpayers' expense. And I'm out of time, so I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Pellegrino, how important are small businesses to the state of New Hampshire and the country?
Thank you, Maureen. I'm just going to trying to get the most important points across. I would say that the small business is the backbone of the I'm sorry, it's been a long day. Let me start all over again. The small business is the backbone of the United States economy and the principal job creator. That's what I'm saying. They're taxing the small business person. A person who has a small business with 4 or 5 employees and tries to make a living, they tax them to death. And not only do they tax them to death, they regulate them. So many regulations, so many laws, that the poor person, the poor businessman, doesn't got a chance. So again, what does he do? He tries it for a year or so, he sees he can't do it, he quits and he leaves. And when he leaves, ladies and gentlemen, he leaves the state of New Hampshire. That means he leaves us with less revenue in the state of New Hampshire. You know, all the regulations they have, and there's a whole bunch of them, and I can't, if I try to pick one or another, it's like picking a needle out of a haystack. That's how much regulations is. There's so much confusion in the state of New Hampshire pertaining to small business and their regulation and their laws and their taxes that, you know, it's very hard for a man to make a living. So what I'm saying right now is, if you get me up to the State House again, I'm going to try. I know I'm only one vote, only one voice, but the one voice I'm going to say is that I want them to get rid of some of the regulations. I want them to get rid of the taxes. And I do not support a sales tax or income tax or any kind of tax in the state of New Hampshire. The economy that we're having right now is bad enough without adding more. So ladies and gentlemen, please come down and vote. Vote for us. Vote for the 8 on the slate here, so we can go up there and prove that we can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes round 1, so we're at the halfway point, and I just want to take this opportunity to remark on what an incredible group of Republican candidates Merrimack has this year for state representative. I'm sure, like me, you viewers at home have learned something new and are just as impressed with the knowledge and dedication that the 8 people in this forum have for New Hampshire and our community of Merrimack. And remember, you have the opportunity to vote for all 8 of these candidates for state representative on November 4th. Now we'll proceed with round 2 of questions, starting again with Phil Straight. Phil Straight, what do you like best about the New Hampshire House of Representatives?
Thank you. First, I'd like to second that comment. There's not a person on this panel that I don't trust to do their level best to make the best decisions they can. I like everybody here, and I hope that they will. I know they'll earn your vote. I hope they get your vote. I think my favorite thing I think that happened that maybe I wasn't even really expecting, like so many people, I paint with a broad brush and say, oh, all politicians this and all politicians that. But when I got up there, I found a real sense of honor among the reps. There's the honor and the integrity of everybody really working hard to get it right. We stuck together on all those 100 and some taxes and fees, but we were outnumbered. We need more Republicans elected, period. Again, I want to accentuate the honor and the integrity. When we would discuss in committees, in the hallway, at the many caucuses, every time you would have a conversation over a tough subject, the sincerity of wanting to get it right always seemed to come out. And I was really impressed with a lot of people. We were outnumbered by the other party. We didn't get our way on many good ideas. And I hope we can change that. So again, please vote for the slate of 8.
Thank you. Jack Balcom, what do you think is the most important issue facing state reps during the next biennium?
Okay, I'll continue on with what I was saying previously, and thank you for the question, Maureen. Again, I think the most important issue is the budget, is the economic downward spiral that we're in. We have to go up there and reverse that spiral. Right now, we're in a cycle. The current governor and the current Democrat leadership's answer to New Hampshire's economic downward turn is to increase spending by 18%, or as you've heard, almost $2 billion. Okay, where's that revenue going to come from? This will continue to spiral our New Hampshire economy downward because we'll be overtaxing our people, we'll be overtaxing our small businesses, driving them out of the state. How is that going to solve our problem? What we need to do is we need another solution, the Republican solution, and that's what Walt Havenstein, our Republican candidate for governor, has come up with a plan, and that's to create 25,000 new jobs. He also knows that within that $10 billion budget is waste and fraud. Now, you can't even comprehend a $10 billion budget. But Walt, when he was at BAE Systems, had a $10 billion budget. He's experienced in looking at a $10 billion budget. He understands where things are hidden in the $10 billion budget. Now, his solution is to identify that waste and fraud and to allocate it to those people that need it. Ironically, this is going to help everybody. It's like a rising tide floats all boats. It even helps, ironically, our traditional group of people that the Democrats profess to be defending. And that's helping to lower tuition at the University of New Hampshire, helping to the developmentally disabled folks to get through this managed care and to not be cut off from Boston Children's, help small business with their capital pool, and even unions. It will even help unions. It's a no-brainer.
Thank you. Dick Barry, rumor has it that your teacher gave you a couple extra assignments to do over the summer, and you have been pretty busy during a normal downtime for the legislature. Please share any of those that might be of interest to our viewers.
Thanks, Maureen. And for those of you who are interested in inside baseball, the current Speaker of the House is a teacher. And yeah, she does give me extra assignments now and then, but it's more because the Deputy Speaker was a friend. She was our chair when I was on Science, Technology, and Energy, and she thinks I'll do a good job and we'll show up and do things. A couple of things. One, I'm on JELCAR, which is Joint Legislative Committee on Administrative Affairs. And we take I love these little documents that the guy shows. This is crazy. But we take something like that, which is the current rules for the meals and rooms tax. And we try to make them a little more understandable. We make sure that they meet the legislative intent, and the folks in the bureaucratic side think that we're getting in the way, and we think they're getting away. So it's kind of fun all the time. But a good one is they put me on a committee, 1146 bill, and we're looking at how do we help fund college or career education for those kids that are they're down on their luck, or their parents they're poor and lower income folks. Maine has a program that's funded through a philanthropic organization, not any government funds. They give each baby a $500 account to be used only for college education or career technical school after high school. And what this does for the family is it raises the family's aspirations and raises the kids' aspirations in terms of going on to higher education. I think it's amazing because if they think they're going to go to college or they get a chance to go to a career technical school, they'll probably do better in high school and maybe stay out of trouble and makes life interesting up there. So we haven't finished it. We're going through it. We may start a pilot program. But thanks. It's nice talking about this.
Thank you. Chris Christensen, we hear a lot about cutting taxes to increase revenue. Does that really work?
Thank you for the question, Maureen. That's a tough thing to quantify, but let me suggest a couple of things, maybe coming at it from the other direction, where over-regulation has been very, very harmful. I think one of the most obvious examples in our history is prohibition. Put bunches and bunches of businesses out of business. in historic terms, most cities had several either local or regional mini breweries, or what we call mini breweries now. And it's only now that those, 50 years later, decades later, that those are starting to come back. In our more recent history in New Hampshire, in that time when the Democrats raised taxes and fees in the 100 range, one of the things was enacted was a 10% tax on gambling winnings. And it didn't become effective immediately, but everybody was kind of apprehensive about it. And it turns out as soon as it did become effective, we started losing lottery ticket sales. Money for education went out the window. Small businesses on the borders were losing cigarette and beer tax money that they otherwise would have gotten. So that's bad enough, but then when you move to another location, the racetrack up in Belmont no longer had the customers to do off-track betting. Those people weren't coming in. We were losing revenue there. We were losing revenue from the room and meals tax because they had a big restaurant. They had to lay off 72 employees. That business is now gone. However, Dick Hinch is my co-sponsor, and Tony and Janine and Dick and Phil all helped. We put together a bill to repeal that particular tax at the earliest opportunity. And it went straight through. Now, normally we talked a little bit earlier about how you kill a bill and then you put it into the budget bills or something like that. In this case, that bill stood on its own, it passed on its own, and instead of waiting until July or the following January to be effective, the governor signed it May 9th. It was effective 14 days later on May 23rd, 2011. I'm very proud of that bill in the sense that it's a proof to me, and I think to everybody else, that, yeah, we made some mistakes. Not me, I never voted for that in the first place. But there are mistakes, we can get rid of them, and too much taxation definitely is bad for business.
Thank you. Dick Hinch, please explain what your #1 priority will be during the next session of the legislature.
Well, thank you, Maureen. What I want to set as a goal for my #1, or my #1 goal for the next session is to find a way to reach across the aisle, to work with all of the reps, regardless of whether we're Democrats or Republicans, to find a way to make the whole process work better. Now, in having said that, that's to be done without giving up our principles as Republicans. But I think that all of us, we sit home and we see the gridlock that happens nationally, and there's gridlock that happens in the state house as well. And I think there's an opportunity there. As Chris alluded to, bills that are put forward by legislators. Not only do we look for co-sponsors who are people that we might know, but we also look for co-sponsors from the other party.
Yep. Absolutely.
And doing that is very, very effective, because then it does not seem like it's a partisan bill. And I think we have opportunities. I know we have opportunities. And once again, as Chris alluded to, we need to be able to attract businesses, to become a business-friendly state, to have a sign that's hanging at the borders that says open for business. Well, the way to do this is to make it the right location at the right time for the businesses. And in order to do that, we now have to work together as a team. Again, I'll underline, without giving up our Republican principles, but there's a way to do it so that we're all marching together to solve the crisis that we face both nationally and statewide. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Moore, do you support Common Core? Why or why not?
Thank you for the question. I do not at all, under any circumstances, support Common Core. And there are a couple of reasons why. One, having come out of the Merrimack school system back in 2008 again, there was content in it that I didn't like, I didn't approve of. Now, Common Core was not implemented back then. Like, throw that right out of the gate. But a lot of the similar things that I think we were taught wrap up into it. Now, Common Core focuses on English and math. There's a new thing out there. It's not a new thing, but revised standards on this thing called A-Push, and it focuses on social sciences and history and revisionism, and I don't approve of that either. But that's the first reason. The second reason, which is very touchy with people, but a lot of people agree it's a very big bipartisan issue, is it is not constitutional according to the federal Constitution. There are 18 enumerated powers under Article 1, Section 8 of the federal Constitution. Not one of them is education. The 10th Amendment allows whatever powers are not delegated to the Constitution back to the states and the people. Therefore, I say give it back to the parents, right back to the parents, and allow them to decide. So therefore, I support a fully funded public voucher system so parents can take that voucher and find out where they want their children to go to and find out what's best for them. Let the parents decide, because again, my campaign slogan has been bringing back we the people. We've got to come back to the roots of where we were founded on. And that is why, the biggest reason why I don't support Common Core. I want to see the parents decide what they want their kids to learn, not the federal government, because as we've seen, it doesn't work. Thank you.
Thank you. Janine Nodder. Besides jobs and the economy, name an issue that you are passionate about and will make a priority in the upcoming term of the 164th legislature.
Thank you, Maureen. And the answer is voter integrity. I've been following the work of Ed Nail. He's an activist who's been working tirelessly for a number of years on voter integrity. If you go online to NHinsiders.com, you can see for yourself case after case of people voting in New Hampshire who don't live in New Hampshire and don't care about New Hampshire. Therefore, they have no right to pick our elected officials. Yet it happens. You can also go to Granite Grok to see a listing. I'd like to work to stop them, to stop voter fraud. Here's a few examples. Perhaps you've heard of Martha's Motel. Well, Martha Fuller Clark is a state senator who allowed 4 people not related to her to use her address and vote in New Hampshire. Joe Biden's niece registered in Manchester and voted here. And just last week, I got to look at my notes for this one, an attorney from Pennsylvania named Jared S. Cram was caught. He voted in Wilton, New Hampshire in 2012, both in the primary and the general election. He also voted in Ward 58 in Philadelphia, and there are so many more. That's just a few. Recently, New Hampshire Secretary of State Bill Gardner admitted that voter fraud is an issue in New Hampshire. It's a felony, and I do support prosecuting these individuals. Now, there's a few things we can do to establish voter integrity. Number 1, we must have a Republican governor. The governor appoints the Attorney General. The Attorney General can prosecute the fraudulent voters. So please vote for Walt Havenstein for governor. 2, we can put in a bill to join have New Hampshire join 28 other states to be part of the Interstate Voter Registration Cross-Check Program. The Secretary of State in Kansas started this. If we could cross-check our voter list with the list of other states, then we can easily find those who truly, and not jokingly, vote early and vote often. 3, it is essential that you come out to vote on November 4th. We must have more honest voters to cancel out the dishonest voters. And we can do this. We did it in 2010. So please, if you want lower taxes and less government, freedom and justice, and no sales or income tax, then please vote right down the line, straight ticket Republican, including this great slate of 8. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Pellegrino. What is your position on tax reform for small businesses?
I believe that we should stop taxing the small businessman. I believe that the small businessman is the backbone of the state of New Hampshire and the backbone of this country. A lot of small businesses are leaving the state of New Hampshire, and they're going, believe it or not, they're going to Massachusetts. You're going to say, you got to be kidding me. No, it's the truth. They go to Massachusetts. I don't know why. There's taxes over there, but they feel like they have a better business, a better opportunity over in Massachusetts than they do in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is taxing the small businessman to death. I always said, and I'm going to read it from my little notes over here, is that if I can find my notes, a little joke there. When a business is healthy, they will bring in job growth. I believe that. If a small business makes a good living, don't get taxes, get rid of the regulations, then they'll stay in New Hampshire. They'll hire more people. The economy is going to be good. People are going to have jobs. They're going to stay in New Hampshire. They're going to go out and buy things in New Hampshire instead of going someplace else and leaving the state of New Hampshire. That's why the young kids are leaving in New Hampshire, because they don't see anything in New Hampshire for them to do. You know, you pay so much money to go to college, and then you come and you say you're out of college, and you say, well, now I'm going to try to get a job. There is no job in New Hampshire. Why? Because there's nothing there. So they go someplace else, and all the young people are moving away. So, ladies and gentlemen, we got enough taxes. We got enough regulations. Once I get up there, I know, as I said this before, and be repetitive, but I will try my best to get the small businessman to stay in New Hampshire. And I don't got much time left. The gentleman is raising his hand. I'll wave back to him and say, please, vote for the slate of 8. These people here are your friends. They are people for the state of New Hampshire, and they are for the town of Merrimack. You elected them. Please come down November 4th and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes round 2 of our questions. Now we'll proceed with closing remarks. Phil Straight.
Thank you. Naturally, we all want your vote, but more importantly, I think we want your support. I'd like people out there to find somebody they want to work with, they really believe in, they want to support. Write a letter to the editor, make some phone calls, use your email, use Facebook. Help us get in majority. The majority by 1 is a very small portion of the deal. I think we need veto-proof numbers. It's very, very important that Walt gets in that corner office if we're going to be able to turn these things around. It was a long 2 years getting beat on some of the simplest, most obvious bills, and to get beat by that 38 vote margin that we had, could be very frustrating. But we can do better, and we will do better. Thank you.
Jack Balcom.
Again, my name is Jack Balcom. I'm listed on the ballot in the second position as John Balcom. Don't be confused, please. I ask for your vote on November 4th, but I also, more importantly, ask for you to vote for all 8 of us, because it's going to take this team in order to go up there and turn things around. As former State Senator Dr. Jim Squires of Hollis said, he said, anybody going to Concord should be a servant of all the people. Okay, I agree with this statement. I have a past record of service in Concord to everybody in our town. I will answer every email that's sent to me, and I will consider every comment that's sent to me about legislation that's coming up. Who am I? I have a bachelor's degree from the United States Naval Academy. It just happens to be the same class as Walt Havenstein, so I've got a special connection with hopefully our next governor. I'm a U.S. Marine Corps veteran. I have 2 master's degrees. Again, I ask you to vote for this team on November 4th. I'm getting the signal. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening tonight.
Dick Barry.
Thanks, Maureen. Folks have asked me what are your qualifications for a state representative, and I say I've got 4 daughters and 4 granddaughters, so I learned how to say no early and often, and I think that serves me very well up in Concord. I've got an electrical engineering degree, which gives me some technical credibility, and the way I try to get work done is by working across the aisle, not just Republicans, but also Democrats, and with the Senate folks who share my values of personal responsibility, equal rights, not special rights, in a smaller, more efficient government. We want to treat the taxpayer like they're a customer. We want to treat small businesses that Tony is always talking about, treat them like they're innocent until proven guilty, and I think we can do that as we move along. I ask for your vote, not only for me, but also for the slate of 8. I think we can do a great job when we work together, and this is a good group of people you have here. Thanks, Maureen.
Chris Christensen.
Thank you, Maureen, and thank you to all the people that worked hard to put this event together. I think it's a great service to Merrimack voters. However, it's pretty brief, really, and I want to encourage people to go to my Facebook page, Christensen for Rep. Like it, share it. I appreciate that. You can also find out more about me on my website, www.christensennh.com. As we've gone through this campaign process, I find people are looking for just a few things. They want a lean budget. They want a fair budget. We have to do more in that direction. I have a pro-business, pro-economic growth voting record. I want to stick to that. I think, as I've said earlier, I'm opposed to an income and a sales tax, and I basically want to continue that work and get government back on its feet again, get the state back on its feet again, and protect individual rights, let people do what they want, let the legislature run the state, not people's individual lives. Hope you'll vote for me and for the slate of 8 on November 4th. Thank you.
Dick Hinch.
Well, thank you, Maureen. Really appreciate you putting this together for us. I know that I speak for my 7 compatriots here when I extend our sincere thank you to you for a great job. And I join with all of the others here in asking you on November 4th to vote for the slate of 8. As those who preceded me said, we work well as a team. We represent the town very effectively. We're happy to do it. We're there for you. We answer our phones. We answer our emails. November 4th, Tuesday, the high school. The high school is where the voting will take place, not the Mastrocola School where the primary was. Very important. So I ask for your vote and your support on November 4th, and I ask for your vote for the slate of 8. Thank you.
Josh Moore.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I appreciate you giving us all the opportunity to talk about our issues and the issues going on here in New Hampshire. I will start off by saying in conclusion here that it's been a real honor and a real privilege to be able to talk with and run alongside the 7 other candidates that are sitting beside me. I've learned a lot. As a young person, it's been very insightful, and I'm looking forward to representing Merrimack and New Hampshire as a whole with these folks and these public servants. So I, again, like the rest of them, would love your vote on November 4th, and please vote straight Republican so we can turn this state back around and head toward limited government and promoting businesses. Thank you very much.
Janine Nodder.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm seeking my 3rd term, and as your state representative, I have a voting record that proves that I'm pro-business, pro-family, pro-Second Amendment, pro-military and veterans, and I've been an advocate for victims of heinous crimes. On a personal note, my husband, Steve, and I have been married for 29 years. We were 5, if anybody asks. Our 4 original children are now in their 20s, and our bonus kids, I like to put them in groups, are 13 and 17, almost 18. I ask for your vote, not only for me, but for the great slate of 8 and all the Republicans all the way down, starting with Walt Havenstein, and I don't know who's on the bottom, maybe the sheriff, I'm not sure. I'll look at it. We will work together to cut taxes and fees and uphold voter integrity, reduce the size of government, and we will honor our oath of office and uphold both the New Hampshire and the U.S. Constitution, and no sales or income tax. Thank you.
Tony Pellegrino.
Thank you, Maureen. I'm just going to say a few words here. It's very hard. Last but not the best. I might say that, but I'm just saying that it's very hard for me to say a lot of things that it's already been said. But I'm just going to say on November 4th, please come down and vote for the slate of 8. And we're going to try to do your best. And me personally, I'm not a politician in a roundabout way. As you'll notice, I've been talking, and I've not really been, down to politician talk. But I will try to roll up my sleeves and go to work for the town of Merrimack. I've done it for these last terms that I've been in there, and I will do it again. Again, if you still want to talk to me, my telephone number is 424-7095. I have my own show, Tony's Back Room. I'm on every Tuesday, 4 p.m. You want to come on and talk to me on my show? Come on down. So don't forget, November 4th, the high school. Come down and vote for the slate of 8. And thank you very much for your time. And God bless.
That concludes our forum tonight. The slate of 8, your Republican team for state representative with the election on November 4th. I want to thank all of the candidates for participating and thank you, the viewers, for watching tonight. I hope you learned quite a bit from your slate of 8, and I also hope that you are just as impressed as me with the representation you'll have after November 4th when these 8 fine individuals are elected to represent Merrimack in the House of Representatives in New Hampshire. Election day is Tuesday, November 4th. Voting takes place at the Merrimack High School from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're out of town on November 4th, please make it a point to call the Merrimack Town Clerk as soon as possible to obtain an absentee ballot. And her phone number is 603-424-3651. Thank you again for watching. We appreciate your time. Don't forget to vote Republican on November 4th, and good night.